You're listening to Finding Your Genius Zone with Dirk Nevelle. With the help of successful individuals across industries, Dirk breaks down the unknown parts of every vocation while highlighting the importance of finding a career where you can leverage your natural skills, passions, and interests. Now here's your host, Dirk Nevelle.
Hi, everybody. This is Dirk Nevelle. Welcome to my podcast. On with me is a friend, Amy Banovich. Amy, welcome.
Hi, Dirk. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. So Amy is an office managing partner with one of the big four accounting firms, KPMG. I'm going to let Amy kind of get into that here in a little bit, but Amy is a friend of mine that I've known for a few years. I've had the privilege of kind of hanging out with you right before the Christmas holiday season, and super cool. And one of the things I love about Amy is Amy and her husband, John, we always attend a Christmas party at my mom's, and I always seem to gravitate towards them as a couple. Super cool, and you guys are just awesome to talk to. I apologize this year we didn't get a lot of time. It was kind of a weird, a weird night. It was just kind of a blur, but good to see you.
Nice to see you. Yeah, this is going to be a fun experience.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Side of you, I don't know.
No, I'm excited because, it's interesting. I know people in your world but I don't really know a lot about what it's like to work for one of the big four. I know that you have 650, 700 people that you manage. You have a big, big job. Maybe we can just have you tell us a little bit about what it is you do. And then we'll kind of go backwards and kind of talk about how you got into it.
Yeah, so I'm an office managing partner of KPMG, and each of the big four, each of the big accounting firms have an office leader. And so I'm an audit partner. So that's what I've been for many years. I've been in our audit function. And so I work on large companies. I focus on large health systems and health insurers and preparing their annual financial statements. But as an office managing partner, I'm kind of the face of the office in the community. I work with all of our people in kind of our people things, our annual town halls, our holiday parties, are bringing things that are good for our people on a daily basis, our office lease and our office space. So I work on all of that, but I also work with all of the functions. So we have audit, tax, and advisory, and those three functions do different things. But I kind of bring it all together and go to market together as kind of one whole firm and connect with those in the community. And the other thing is like I said, I'm the face of the community. So I'm on a number of boards. And for me, it's about networking, about getting our name out, getting our values out. And actually, that's one thing that's really important for our office and what we do. And we take a lot of pride in it, is that we do a lot of community service. And reach out to the community and volunteer our time and money or time. So that's kind of in a nutshell what I do.
So have you been doing that? I know you've been with your company for about 22 years. Have you been in that role for that long, or is that a new role for you?
It's fairly new. December of 2020, I was appointed to this role, which was not the easiest time to be an office managing partner because there was no office to manage. We were all at home, and I was managing my house at that point. So it was a little different. It's fairly new. It's been 3 going on 4 years, and I was just in the audit function before that, and which I enjoyed. But I honestly, this is my dream job. This is what I like to do. I'm more of a people person. I've loved my years of client service, and I still do that. That's still part of what I do. But it was nice to be able to do something different and something that is even more people oriented and taking care of people within the firm. And so it's been a fun change, but I still do both. So got a full plate.
So I'm trying to think how to ask this. Sometimes I just kind of, I when I met you, I think of you as someone who's super social, like somebody who's not a salesperson, but just really warm, good energy. And then when I think of a stereotypical accounting firm auditing, I think of not boring, but I think of just head down numbers, spreadsheets, data. is that accurate? Like your life before your current role, was it just like, I know there's social interaction, getting along with people, but is it an accurate assumption that your line of work involves, it's kind of a data driven, where the social, the warmth, all these things that you're doing now, is that part of your previous role?
So in the early years of my career and of someone getting into public accounting, it is about kind of data and accounting and heads down work. That changes over time as you move up the ranks from an associate to a senior associate to a manager. It's a client service firm. And so we're professional services, and it ends up being about relationships. And you have to have a personality to sell work, to keep clients happy, know how to deal with people. So in the early years, I mean, you get your accounting degree, and if you're going into audit or tax, and you do a lot of the number crunching and the detailed work and the writing of memos and all of that. But as you move along in your career, it becomes more about, I present to boards all the time for my clients. And so then it becomes about being able to present and talk to people and speak clearly and concisely and in a way that people can understand. And so it really kind of changes. It's an evolution throughout your career in public accounting.
Yeah. And I guess what I'm trying to say is like, I feel like you have a wide range of skill sets that maybe in accounting, not everybody has. And I'm not saying anything negative about people in accounting, but when I met you, I was like, it kind of not surprised me, but I was thinking, God, she seems like she could be a CEO of a company or, out in and it's kind of what you're doing now, but it's an interesting balance that you have, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
You're imagining me in my like green shades and my green
Yeah.
my green hat and my little pencil and calculator in my pocket.
Well, see, I mean, I'm in lending, so I deal with numbers all the time, but I'm super social and I'm a sensitive guy. Like, so I might not be ideal for my industry because it comes down to numbers but it's always about relationships. Is that kind of what you wanted to do from an early, I mean, if you could take us back to like high school, college, were you thinking accounting all along or what were you thinking back then?
No, I was terrible at math. I hated math in like I look back to like first grade. I remember standing in my first grade classroom crying in front of my entire class with my teacher because I just didn't understand math. I couldn't get it. And so it wasn't anything that I gravitated towards. I think I took an accounting class in high school, but math just was not my what I felt like was not my thing. So I got to college and was taking business classes, thought I wanted to be kind of go the lawyer attorney route, um, but ended up taking an accounting class, and something clicked. I don't know what it was, but like I think I got 99% in the first college exam in accounting. I'm like, well, maybe there's something there. And then you have to take calculus and stuff like that. I'm like, oh, I'm never going to get calculus. But I ended up doing well in that. And so I'm like, okay, some switch flipped, and I ended up discovering something that I didn't know I was actually good at. And I think that's one thing to keep an open mind. Like you might not like it, but it may be because you're not trying it in the right way or giving yourself time, and giving yourself, like for me, I just had to study a lot. Like I was a studier, like heads down, study, study, study. I had to go over things 3 times before I really had it in my brain. But that's how I feel like my whole brain shifted when I did that.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, I kind of want to go there for a little deeper on that because like, I think a lot of people have voices in their head. I did, my dad was a lot about money and what looked good and kind of superficial. So I found myself looking at careers that align with kind of his definition of success. But I'm thinking about the people watching this and they're thinking that, they don't think they're good at something, but the reality is you don't really know until you kind of give it a shot. And I guess when you got that good grade in accounting and you're like, was there another area that you thought in the back of your head, like, were you thinking lawyer or what was the motivational fact? Like, what was What was in Amy's head in terms of what she thought she wanted to do?
Yeah, I wanted to be an attorney like my brother. My
Okay.
brother was in law school, and I thought that was the route what I wanted to go. But when I did well in that accounting class, I actually went and had lunch with my mom, and I'm like, I don't know what this is all about, but it seems like it's a really good career path, a really good career path for women is what I'm seeing. And I don't know, it's kind of coming easier than other things. And so that was kind of the point in time that I switched to that major and just kind of took that path forward.
Okay. And then you graduated from college and then you went right into the world of accounting?
I did, yeah. I went to the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee.
Mhm.
I grew up in Wisconsin, and I went through the whole recruiting process. So when you're an accounting major, there's a very formal recruiting process that, when you work with your university and your business school, they'll be able to tap you into that process. And it's very certain times a year for interviews and things like that. And so I interviewed with all of the what was Big Eight at the time, which is interesting. And then it whittled down to six. I think I had four offers, and Arthur Andersen was one of them. And Arthur Andersen, at the time, really was viewed as like the top. There you were fortunate if you got an offer from Arthur Andersen. And so I was hired by Arthur Andersen in Milwaukee, but ended up transferring out before I ever even started in the Milwaukee office, and I moved to Seattle and started out in Seattle.
Okay. I was reading, and maybe I'm not exact on this, but like there's 50,000 internships at your company and like 8% of them actually get a job. I don't know if that's right, but it was very competitive.
I don't know if that's right either.
I mean, I did a little, I went online to the World Wide Web and it told me that. But my question is like, what advice, like if somebody is really dead set on going down this road in accounting, professional services, as far as standing out, like in the process, I don't know if the interview process is similar where there's 2 or 3 times a year, but like, how do you differentiate yourself, like apart from your GPA?
Yeah. Yeah, because it's super competitive from a GPA perspective. I'm just so impressed with how hard all of the students work and their great GPAs. It does come down to being able to hold a conversation and to really portray kind of their passions, and their just be natural. I mean, that's one thing that I think is really important in the interview process. Someone that can come out and tell their story, and why they want to work for your company. I think that's really important. Understanding kind of their motivation and why they want to do it. But it's funny. I've conducted a lot of interviews, and you can kind of just tell. And again, if it's a professional services industry, we do end up kind of gravitating towards those people that you can tell they can work with people. They're not afraid to talk. And I think that's what has stood out most in the interviews that I've conducted, because it's kind of a level playing field. The ones that end up getting selected to come in, they all have great GPAs. They all have extracurricular activity. Then it comes down to being able to communicate and speak in a way that really is, makes you understand who they are as a person and what their passions are.
Yeah, I mean, it's so interesting. Some of the podcasts I've done, like I had 2 people that are really successful in movie score. So they do movie music for movies,
Mm-hmm.
and I always thought that's what I wanted to do because I love soundtracks, non-lyrical, just music kind of moves me in a way. And both of them talked so much about one of the things that was so important is just the social skills, the ability to interact with people. And I always thought, you go into a room and you write music, you can be a total introvert. But so many of my podcasts, it comes down to the ability to communicate, the likability factor. And it's interesting for me to hear that from you, because I sometimes think you guys are looking for people that can just see a spreadsheet and like know, AI or just know exactly where to go. But it's a lot
Right.
about social as well. So when you're interviewing these people, they're smart people. They're motivated. But what would you say is the one thing they don't really know about based on your years of being in the industry that maybe surprised you, that they think they know this, but they probably don't know this and that? Is there anything about being in your industry that's kind of caught you off guard or that you didn't see coming?
No, I think it's just like how I was when I was in college, that I don't really know what 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 accountants do in a big four public accounting firm. They don't know until they're actually in the internship or hired. But I think for them it's a surprise as to, oh, I didn't know you did that. I didn't know that was going to be part of my job. So I think that's the one thing that, as college students, you kind of don't realize what the job is totally all about until you get in it. I mean, you can be in the accounting classes and you're learning your debits and credits and learning about tax code and stuff like that, but I think it's a little different when they actually get there.
Can you tell me like maybe one or two of those things that when they say, "Hi, I didn't know it was like this." What is one of those things or two of those things?
um well, I would say, part of what they have to do is they have to interview clients. They have to ask a lot of questions. They have to kind of delve into, what their controls are, and how they do things, and what the processes are, and walk through the process. And so it's a lot of this, again, coming down to communication, and being able to talk with people, and being able to listen, and be able to absorb what they're saying, taking notes. And so you don't think of that when you think of accounting, and you think of the numbers and sitting down and figuring out, are the numbers right? Well, it's also, when it comes to audit, it's also about their internal control structure, especially in public companies, that are on the public exchange. And there's even more in controls around that. So I think that part's probably a little more surprising.
Yeah.
Just those connections that they have to make with the client.
Yeah. No, it's interesting because I wasn't thinking about that. Like I was thinking, what's it like to do? And it's not just task oriented. It's also like you have to win the business. And then it makes me think, okay, why is a big bank, like I think you have a lot of banking clients, why would a ABC company choose you guys versus,
Mhm.
another, like, is it just about personal, because you guys probably all are pretty darn good, right? What is different about your company, or is it just about personal relationships?
Well, I think number one, it is about personal relationships. But number two, it's each firm has kind of their industries that they're really good in, or that they do more of. So we do a lot of banking, and a lot of banking on the East Coast as well. And so that's when you get that broad experience, and then you have multiple teams and multiple partners and multiple associates that have had that experience on other similar engagements, and so similar jobs, then it just makes it more marketable because they know the industry. When you have a team that doesn't know the industry, it I think it's really frustrating for clients, and that will come out in a proposal process, when you work through that. So that's why they would pick whichever firm, if it's KPMG, which is great. We love that. But we want to make sure that we have the right skills and the right industry background that can serve them well.
Got it. And you guys are based in the Netherlands?
So yeah, it was a Dutch company. So it's KPMG is Kleinveld, Piet Marwick, Girdler. So Kleinveld Girdler came together with Piet Marwick, which was standalone firm. So yeah, so it's a really long name, so we leave it at KPMG, and they think we're like a radio show
Yeah.
or something like that. A lot of people that don't know.
What is that? KPRG in Cincinnati? I don't know if you remember
Right?
that TV
No, yeah.
something. No, now I know. I think you guys are probably responsible for acronyms because nobody
I think
wanted to say. I remember when I got into technology and I worked for. I got interviewed by Mark Cuban. I worked for him, and then we became part of Yahoo. And I remember like all these acronyms. I'm like, what is this? Like, you know what I mean? Like
yeah,
everything was an
yeah.
acronym.
Yeah.
So if somebody, okay, so someone's watching, listening, and they're all in on going down this road. So when you get into the firm, or an accounting firm like yours, or it, is it typical to like stay put for a year, 5 years, and then move on? Do people stay in the same roles? Like, is there a lot of upward mobility in a firm like yours?
Yeah, that's the one great thing about public accounting firms is the movement up. It's not guaranteed. You have to deliver, and you have to um, do your job in a good way that's being noticed. But there are very deep, set steps on what levels. And so typically you come in as an associate. You're an associate for a couple of years. You get promoted to be a senior, and then a couple of years at that, and then get promoted to be a manager, and then it goes senior manager and managing director to partner. So it's a very kind of routinized stair step process that we have. So definitely movement for moving upward. And it's one of those things I look back on when I was in college and interviewing, and in my head, and it's kind of the thought process that a lot of those early hires have, is like, oh, I'm just going to stay for 2 years because you need those 2 years to fulfill your CPA license, and then I'm going to go do something else. So, and in some cases that is the case. But others, because each step is different. It's not boring because you don't end up staying at the same level, and you don't end up doing the same thing every year. So that's the really nice thing, is there's a lot of variety in what we do. And because you're moving up so fast, you're always being challenged. Like, I'm still at a point where, like, I'm still learning. I'm still learning a lot, and I will be challenged until I retire. Um, because there's something new all the time.
So why, there's one of you, right, for Seattle?
Yes, yeah.
So I don't mean to put you on the spot, like, but why you? Like, what is it? Why do you think Amy was like? And I know that there's a lot of reasons, but I'm just curious, like, because I think it'd be interesting for the audience to kind of hear about what translates to your success. Like, was it the likability? Was it the full range of just the experience of all the different steps you took? Or, I mean, what I guess I would think it would be a competitive job to get, but why did they choose Amy for this?
Um, I think it was I've been involved in national KPMG board. So I was on the National Women's Advisory Board, um, finding ways to have programs and support for women within our firm to mentor them and advance them as well. So I was doing a lot of national things, and I already also intended to be doing a lot in the community. I was on the board of the Seattle Sports Commission, and so I was kind of external facing, and the fact that I'm more social than probably a lot of the others. It's funny, it was years ago, but the office managing partner at the time, took me to lunch, and he's like, so would you ever want this role? And I'm like, oh, heck no. Why would I subject myself to that kind of scrutiny? Because when you're in leadership like that, I mean, not everybody loves you, and you're not always doing the right thing in their, in everyone's eyes. And so I'm like, I'm good. I'm a line partner. I I don't want to get subject to that, and that there's a lot of pressure. So years went by, and it turned out that the office managing partner was getting promoted to a national role, and so it was opening up. And he came to me again. He's like, so I have to submit three names as recommendations. And he goes, do you want it? And I'm like, and this was in the middle of the pandemic, and I'm like, I don't know. And talked to John, my husband, who has a very different career than me. He's a wildlife artist, and he totally, we're in such like different paths. Like, corporate America is not the world that he lives in. But we talked about it for a long time, and decided that I'd kick myself if I didn't try. I'm like, I don't know that I really want it, but I'll look back on this and go, well, why didn't I try? And so, I went through the whole process and interview process, and you had to get a lot of support. And I ended up getting it. And I was kind of like, well, okay, well, I don't know if I really want it. I got it. But it honestly was the best thing. I'm like so happy that I did it. I would have regretted it had I not tried. And it was more of my probably my feeling of that, oh, I can't do it. And I don't, and that's just something that I think a lot of females have in their head. They're like, I don't know if I'm qualified. I don't know if I can do it. Um, Whereas sometimes guys, and I'm not speaking for all guys, but they go, heck, I can do this. I don't have this experience, but I can do it. I'll figure it out.
Yeah, I mean, I will just say I've had a lot of fear, and just fear of success, fear of failure. So I think that's common in
Yeah.
both sexes. I mean, it's interesting. I imagine, like, this podcast is called The Zone of Genius, and that's not my term. It's Gay Hendricks is an author and talks about when you're kind of doing what's natural, kind of where you're born into this world. Just like your husband, who's an amazing artist, and yourself. And by the way, I love the contrast. It's always, my wife and I always talk about opposites. And I know there's foundational consistencies with you guys and values, but it's always so interesting. When I think of all the people I know, you guys are like, counting and artists. And it's like, it's crazy. Opposites attract, but I know there's also some similarities. But where was I going on this? The failure. Genius zone. I would assume that you were in your zone of genius. Like, this is a very natural fit for you. And then the reason I bring this up is because what I'm trying to do is get young adults to kind of take inventory of the obvious, like the things that light them up, what they do on a Saturday for 8 hours. Because when you're running a race that you actually should be winning, or that you want to win, or that it's a good fit, you kind of distance yourself. And like, I see people who are really successful that are in perfect careers. And I just could imagine, I'm guessing you are in the perfect role because it's what you were meant to do. It kind of fits all your skill sets.
Yeah, I feel like it now. That's why I refer to it as my dream job. I like client service. I've done that, but it was one of those things. It's like, I've been doing it I'm going on 27 years, and I think 27 years in public accounting, 28 years. So it's a long time. And so
28, I did my homework on you.
28, I think 95 to 2023.
22 years at KPM, and then I think 6 or something at Arthur.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but I think you're right. I think I feel like I landed in a spot where I was meant to be. Never in a million years would have thought that, looking back at myself 30 years ago, I'd be like, no way. There's no way.
It's interesting. I think that's common. I don't think you're alone. I think a lot of people feel like I'm not enough, or I'm not smart enough. And even at 53 years old, which I am, I still struggle sometimes with just kind of that feeling. Getting into kind of you talk about the women that you've been working with and some of the boards and so forth. Is there anything you feel like you want to speak to of the women that are watching that might have misconceptions, or maybe they have ideas of what they should do versus a man? I mean, like, I don't know I don't even know how to ask, but like, I think that's a great topic, because I think there's a lot of people that think they need to go down a certain road, and you're a mom, you're successful in your career. You've done it all. Like, is there anything you might want to say to a young woman who's maybe struggling with, I want to do this, but it doesn't feel like a right job for a woman?
Yeah. That's always the struggle. And what works for one woman doesn't work for the other. And so it's definitely a different path for each person that picks it. But I'm really proud. Our office has a lot of females, and a lot of females that are having babies or just had babies. And we have women in leadership that have children and have done it. And not to say that, like, I look back on that and go, oh, that was easy. I was able to work and have babies and travel and nurse all at the same time. It was super easy. Well, it wasn't. And don't want to state it like it was, because it's not, but it was a choice for me that was right for me. And it's about the village that you create to help you be able to, for me, it was keep my career, which was so important. I just felt like I had worked so hard to get to where I was, and taking that darn CPA exam is not easy. So I'm like, on the road to get to where I was like, I don't want to just give it up. And that was my choice. I mean, I could have, I thought about it. Do I be a stay-at-home mom, or do I continue on this path? And my choice for me, and there was a lot of support from the firm, and there's even way more support today than there was when I first had my girls. And I was part of, on that National Women's Advisory Board, part of making that difference is that, we have to give women time. We have to give men time who have children, who have new babies as well. So we have parental leave when new children come into the mix. But it's going to be different. I don't want to tell one woman that this is the way to do it, but I do want to say that you can. And if you want it, you have to figure out what you want. And for me, I know I didn't want to be a stay-at-home mom. I actually don't think I would have been very good. I think I'm a decent mom, but to be here in and day out, I probably wouldn't have been the best. So for me, I felt like going to work and showing that I'm independent, and I can do this in business, and show my children that that was what was important for me.
Yeah. Tell me, tell the audience a little bit about kind of like your day, your week. Like, what's a Sunday afternoon or a Thursday night? Like, are you a 9 to 5, 8? Like, do you go into an office, leave the office, and then are you done, or does your phone follow you to bed and early in the morning? Like, what's it like to do your job? Like, is there freedom? Can you shut it off, or are you always on?
So the great thing about this career path, there's a lot of flexibility, because we tend to, and it's changed in COVID. I mean, it completely changed business overall. And so we don't go to the office or out to the client 5 days a week. It's a hybrid mixture. So we work at home sometimes and work in the office. We're trying to bring people back 3 days a week, and because of the camaraderie that builds and having our people together. But there's flexibility. I mean, for us, it's making sure that you're being responsive to clients, whether it's, if you have to be up early and get in an early call, but maybe you don't work late that night. But I'm one that can shut it off. I mean, there's a point where I like, certain lines that aren't crossed with my family and family time. And, but if we're under deadlines, I'll work the 12, 14-hour day if we need to meet a deadline. And it's just cyclical, it's kind of throughout the year. But it's being flexible. So my Monday may be different than next Monday. And so each week is really different.
Yeah. And I know this is a big question, and it could be a long podcast just to answer this, but like the value proposition, I know you have different services you provide, but at the end of the day, a company is hiring a firm like yours to handle or outsource. Is it the books? I mean, like, what exactly is the value that you're providing? And if that's a bigger question, maybe the value that your division provided, like, what is it that you actually do? I know we can say you're an accounting firm and you do professional services, but what exactly is it that you're providing to a big bank? I think Bank of India, for example, is a client or whatever. What are you doing for them?
Yeah. So let's do it from the audit perspective, because that's what I am, an audit partner. So, and let's take a public company. So a company that has a ticker symbol that's out on the public exchange. You can buy their stocks, for, let's say, $10 per share. And they have a requirement. They have to have audited annual financial statements. So this is a requirement. And then my industry that I'm in, healthcare systems issue public debt, public bonds. So they're required to have audited financial statements. So it's a requirement. So we come in and conduct the audit of the financial statements and making sure that it's in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. And so we have our test mechanisms and how we test all of the areas on the balance sheet, the income statement, cash flows, and then we help in preparing the annual financial statements that get issued, and we sign an opinion saying it's in conformity in all material respects with the standards, and we sign KPMG, and those get issued. So that's from an audit perspective. From a tax perspective, it's tax preparation, doing tax provisions, preparing 990s, preparing tax forms, and then from advisory and consulting, it's kind of there's a wide spread of things that they can do, whether it's from technology and implementing new systems and figuring out better revenue recognition processes. And so there's a lot of different avenues that from a consulting side that we go down.
No, that's actually really helpful. I feel like I should have known this, but I didn't know that. I mean, that's, I don't want to say the word, but it feels like it's like insurance for a company to make sure whatever they're doing safely and they're not harming the public with wrong information, or I don't know. I guess one of the questions that's popping in my head that I talk to a lot of my technology podcast guests on is I'm just curious where you see AI going in terms of changing your industries and maybe the future of your industry or your companies like yours. Is AI a huge part as far as complementing, or is it eliminating jobs?
It's massive. And in fact, we just made a really big investment in AI with a local large company in town, which was public. It was with Microsoft, but we're making a big push and big step towards that. And it is, it's changing the way that we're doing our work. Will it eliminate jobs? I think it'll shift how our people work. And who knows? That's the future, and I'll probably be retired by the time it actually really gets rolling and implemented. Because I'm down to single digits for my career. So, but we're making a big push, and then our clients in every industry has some touch of AI that is starting to be implemented. And with our advisory teams, we're working with those companies and implementation and different avenues on AI. But it's if we don't go there now, we're going to be behind.
Oh yeah. Again, I can't articulate. I'm not an expert in AI, although there's a podcast I listen to called All In, and they talk a lot about it. I just think with all the data and the tools you all use to forecast and analyze, I would just think AI has got to be a huge part of it.
Yeah, it is, and it will be more so in the future.
As we wind down, one question I did want to ask is compensation, not like what you make, Amy, but like in your type of industry, is it typically a salary job and then maybe a salary plus bonus, or is there commission, or do you RSU, stock options as income? How are people typically compensated in your industry?
So we don't have stock options because we're a limited liability company, which is what all of the public accounting firms are. It is a salary. It's a salaried position. And in good years, when we have good performance, there is an incentive comp possibility as well. So so full salary, and changes a little as you make partner, but that's it. Then you're in a partnership, and it becomes a little more complicated.
Cool. No, I just don't think people think about money and compensation. I think they think, I know lawyers make good money, or doctors or whatever, but they, even in sales, there's like 20 flavors of, are you selling to strangers? Are you selling to friends? Are you building a book of business like a financial advisor and that you get paid on every year? So I think the compensation is an interesting thing that people need to understand. What is one thing, not to be negative, but maybe what's the hardest part, or maybe something about your job or career if you could eliminate it. I mean, is there one thing that if, let's say your kids are old enough and they say, Mom, I want to follow in your footsteps, and you're like, cool, but I want you to know about this and this or that. Is there one thing?
Well, it takes hard work, and you got to pay your dues in the beginning. Like, you got to pay your dues. You know, and any profession you go into, you want to do your best and work hard.
Yeah.
But also have flexibility in your life. You know, you have to designate what's important to you and make sure you make time for that too.
What about one thing you just absolutely love about your job or your career or your industry?
I love that the position that I've gotten to in what I do has allowed me to be invited to be on boards in town that I wouldn't have had an opportunity to do. And the people that I've gotten to meet through that has been extraordinary. And the feeling of being a part of the city of Seattle. So that my career has allowed me to be able to do that and put me in a place to be able to do that, which I wouldn't have otherwise.
Yeah, I love it. Is there anything I haven't asked that you think like people need to know, or something on the tip of your tongue? Maybe advice that you might want to give to, say, a young woman or a young man that's like, maybe they're struggling, maybe they're really stressed out about what the heck am I going to do with my life?
Yeah.
Any career advice?
Well, I think it goes back to what I talked about in the beginning, is like, try something that maybe you don't think that you would be good at or that you'd like. You don't know until you try it. And you might fall into accounting like I did, not liking math or not feeling like they're good at math. So I'd say just try it. It's nothing's going to hurt you. You just got to try.
Yeah, I love it. Go for it. Okay, so let's just say this chapter ends in 5 years, 6 years, whatever. I asked this question. I stopped asking this. I don't know why, but I think it's an interesting question. Is there a dream job? Like, you know, and I know you really love what you do now, but let's just say, to make it easier, just take that off the table. You can't do what you're doing. Like, is there a job that you've dreamed of that, you know, like I told you, for me, it would be like maybe writing music for movies or something like that. Is there one for you that you would love to do?
I don't know. I so look forward to retirement to play a lot of golf and you know, enjoy travel. When I was young, I used to want to be a performer. I wanted to sing, dance, act like that. That was like my dream, you know, when I was young. When I retired, that's probably not what I'm going to go into. I think I'm past the time of being able to do that, but that would have been like my dream job.
Yeah, I mean, travel. I mean, I think John's been to Africa, what, 70 times? 60?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Have you been a bunch?
15. Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Well, Amy, thank you so much for taking the time. I really appreciate it. I'd love to see you guys sooner than later. You know, it seems like once a year, right around Christmas time is when we see you guys, but hopefully we can find some time and connect. And in the meantime, enjoy your holiday. Tell John hi, and thanks for coming on.
Thank you. Thanks, Dirk. Yeah.
All right. Take care.